We have to teach young men to be self-controlled, man. I know everything in society tells you you gotta go out here, you gotta get as many different women as you can, and sometimes you feel like you can't just be with one woman. But the reality is that I'm sure Jay-Z, how he's living now with Beyonce and doing his best to be a one-woman man, he wouldn't trade that for the world. He wouldn't trade it for the world. He loves the family that he built with one woman. And I'm thinking that we need to tell young men, just because you're in your 20s and 30s don't mean it's time for you to go crazy. Then when you hit 40, time to calm down. Because you could go crazy in your 20s and 30s and have stuff come back to bite you in the butt. Live self-controlled lives. Family is providence. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm sure you heard by now, Jay-Z has been linked with P. Diddy in a sex crime. A lawyer called Tony Busby filed a civil suit alleging that a woman that has been named Jane Doe for the purposes of hiding her identity has alleged that Jay-Z, along with P. Diddy, R-worded her after the 2000 MTV Music Awards, and a female celebrity that is unknown to us watched with them as they were in a room. I'm going to link the full lawsuit in the description if you want to actually read it, if you haven't seen it yet. I think that everybody was looking forward to the fallout of the accusations against P. Diddy. We know that Diddy, along with a lot of Hollywood elites, were participating in his little sexcapades, his little freak-offs, as they were called. And there were going to be eventually celebrity fallouts. I mean, really, since Jeffrey Epstein, there's been this, I don't want to say infatuation, but this recognition, I think, on a much higher level, that Hollywood elites engage in some ridiculously freaky, illegal behavior. And we've been wanting to see the Jeffrey Epstein list for a long time. And now Diddy and his freak-offs, people been wanting to know, who are the scumbags? Who are the people who have engaged in a bunch of disgusting, illegal behavior because, well, they live that celebrity life where they feel like they can do whatever they want. They have the type of money. They can use their places of power and significance and status to manipulate people into having sex. Oftentimes minors, promised a bunch of people, maybe if you're in the entertainment industry, chances to be on labels, record labels, chances to be in movies. All kinds of things get promised by these celebrities, and it leads to people just being taken advantage of. Right now, on the flip side of that, some people will say, well, a lot of people think that they can use these celebrities for those things, and so they agree oftentimes to these actions, and then when things don't go their way, they sue, they turn around, they say they didn't want to do it, they weren't a part of it, etc., etc. But in the case of Jay-Z and Diddy with this particular lawsuit, the victim alleges that she was 13 years old. So obviously, when you're dealing with a minor, legally a minor cannot consent to sex, period. So if there was any sexual content with Jay-Z and Diddy, this would be illegal. There's no consent that this woman could do. There's no debating whether or not she consented but then changed her mind or whatever the case may be or whatever. If there was any sexual contact, it's wrong. Now, several people had been hinting that Jay-Z was running with Diddy during some of these wild sexcapades. Famously, Jaguar Wright, if you've been paying attention to the blogosphere, the hip hop blogosphere, has been making accusations about Jay-Z. She actually went on Piers Morgan's program and spouted a bunch of, in my opinion, conspiracy theories about what Jay-Z was engaging in, and Jay-Z sent out a cease and desist, and Piers Morgan had to apologize for it. But she's not the only one. I mean, there have been these, content creator documentaries, theories, all kinds of things kind of saying, hey, Jay-Z has been in and around Diddy with some of this stuff. Actually, even 50 Cent, who is a very credible person and someone who is in hip hop culture, had begun to make social media posts linking Jay-Z to this whole thing. So that there was this growing sort of suspicion, there has been now for I think at least a couple months, that Jay-Z had been in and around Diddy while some of these crimes were going on. Couple that with the fact that Jay-Z had been kind of laying low. We hadn't seen anything. He hadn't had his Rock Nation brunch in a while, I maybe think 1 or 2 years or so. And there's just been this sense in which, we didn't see him all election. We've seen Beyonce step out for Kamala Harris. We just never saw Jay-Z. We hadn't heard from him in a little while. I think he may have made a statement when he picked Kendrick Lamar for the Super Bowl, but outside of that, we hadn't really been hearing from Jay-Z. So there was a bit of suspicion, like, man, when this Diddy stuff has started to really take off, why we ain't heard from you? Why haven't you come out and defended your boy Diddy? There was a lot of questions and a growing suspicion and straight up a lot of accusations. But up until now, there hadn't been any credible accusers actually filing a lawsuit. And now that this lawsuit's here, well, a lot of his naysayers look like they were accurate. Now, Jay-Z has responded to the allegations with a statement from Rock Nation. He says this: "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Busby. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny." So Jay-Z's clearly, he's doubling down. He's saying, I'm going to fight this, not settling. And you can understand why these are heinous accusations. And so the speed with which he released this statement and the tone of this statement tells you very clearly that he's not playing any games, which he shouldn't with this type of accusation. He continues, he says, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one," which, to be fair, I think that's a good point. Obviously, I don't know if Jay-Z is guilty of these things. We don't know for sure. He could be, could not be. We're going to have to see if any real evidence comes out for this, how this plays out. But I'm always suspicious when the statute of limitations isn't up, which I don't know if there's a statute of limitations in New York when it comes to rape. Maybe there is. So I'm not sure about that. I know that probably Fed charges could come through, but whenever there's a chance for you can actually get real criminal justice and accusers don't do that and they go for money, it's always a red flag in my mind. That doesn't mean that Jay-Z is innocent. Sometimes maybe people just don't want to go through the whole thing of having to go through trial or whatever the case may be, and they just would settle for some money for them. But for me, it's almost like, well, if this really happened to you, why not look for criminal charges? Now, proving something criminally is beyond reasonable doubt, which is a higher standard than civil charges, which is just a preponderance of evidence, which basically means that, like, it's more likely true than not that such a thing happened. And so the defendant will be found liable for whatever they're being sued for. So maybe there's just a sense in which maybe we can't really prove this like we should, but we can maybe have enough here to win a civil suit. I don't know. But I always think that, man, go. If somebody really did rape you, they deserve to be going to jail. It's just that simple. He continues, "Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree? These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case. This lawyer, who I have done a bit of research on, seems to have a pattern of these types of theatrics. I have no idea how you have come to be such a deplorable human, Mr. Busby, but I promise you I have seen your kind many times over. I'm more than prepared to deal with your type. You claim to be a Marine. Marines are known for their valor. You have neither honor nor dignity. My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I have to sit our children down, one of whom is at an age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people. I mourn yet another loss of innocence. Children should not have to endure such at their age. It is unfair to have to try to understand inexplicable degrees of malice meant to destroy families and human spirit. So clearly, Jay-Z's flipping it here. He's saying, look, me and my family are the true victims. I now have to sit my daughter down and explain these false, horrific charges. This will bring a level of embarrassment. This will rob her of her innocence, right? And I shouldn't have to do all this because I'm being unfairly targeted. How true that is, we will see. So he goes on, my heart and support goes out to true victims in the world who have to watch how their story is dressed in costume for profitability by this ambulance chaser in a cheap suit. You have made a terrible error in judgment thinking that all celebrities are the same. I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the project of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We have very strict codes of honor. We protect children. You seem to exploit people for personal gain. Only your network of conspiracy theorists, fake physics, or maybe psychics will be believing the idiotic claims you have levied against me that, if not for the seriousness surrounding harm to kids, would be laughable. I look forward to showing you just how different I am. Yeah, man. So somebody who grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as I did, I looked up to guys like Diddy. I looked up to guys like Jay-Z. I hope to God these things are not true. I'm not praying on the downfall of Jay-Z like there's some people who tend to be, but I'm also never somebody that ignores the evidence. And I like to think critically about things, and I like to be realistic about certain things. I mean, I will say, man, that the rapper lifestyle that a lot of these rappers brag about, it gives me cause to pause. It does. I mean, rappers are very clear about their sexual recklessness, right? How they out here smashing hoes and passing hoes to their bros and running trains and doing all kinds of things like this, right? And so is it inconceivable that at a party, maybe Jay-Z wasn't thinking and he interacted with someone that was underage? Probably not even on purpose. Who knows? It's possible. And so for me, like, the lifestyle that these rappers live, it doesn't breed confidence. Okay. And Jay-Z was very clear. You even listen to Big Pimpin', you know what I mean? Jay-Z was very clear on how back in the day, how he was using women. And so you would hope that he would have enough sensitivity to and enough alertness not to interact with a minor. But when drugs and alcohol and all kinds of things get involved, who in the hell knows what happened? You know what I mean? So it's possible. Now, obviously, innocent until proven guilty, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too confident on it. I just say this, and I've said this on numerous occasions. We have to teach young men to be self-controlled, man. I know everything in society tells you, you gotta go out here, you gotta get as many different women as you can, you know, and sometimes you feel like you can't just be with one woman. But the reality is that I'm sure Jay-Z, how he's living now with Beyonce and doing his best to be a one-woman man, he wouldn't trade that for the world. He wouldn't trade it for the world. He loves the family that he built with one woman. And I'm thinking that we need to tell young men, just because you're in your 20s and 30s don't mean it's time for you to go crazy. Then when you hit 40, time to calm down. Because you could go crazy in your 20s and 30s and have stuff come back to bite you in the butt. Live self-controlled lives. Yes, and I understand there's a different element to this because this woman was underage at the time. And I know the vast majority of people aren't going to intentionally mess with someone who's underage, but individuals are getting sued all the time by women who weren't underage, but who just decided all of a sudden that what they did consent to, they didn't consent to. I personally think that casual sex is one of the craziest things you can engage in, especially if you're a man with resources, because you have no idea when one of these women that you thought you was just having a nice, cool one-night stand with decides to wake up and for some reason have regret, whether it's not she was probably in a relationship with somebody or just feels shame because of the encounter whatsoever, or maybe she thought that she was going to get something from you that she never got, and now all of a sudden you catching a lawsuit. I just think, bro, like, tell men to live self-controlled lives. So we will see where this lawsuit goes. Again, it's a civil lawsuit, not a criminal lawsuit. So Jay-Z, as at this point, is not facing any jail time. But I mean, with Diddy, that's how it started out too. It started out with a civil lawsuit raised by Cassie, and now look where Diddy is. So We don't know if anything like this could happen for Jay-Z. But you know, personally, I don't foresee Jay-Z going to jail, just because I don't think Jay-Z was as reckless as P. Diddy. I think P. Diddy really was just crazy with, you know, all kinds of sex parties and, you know, bringing women across state lines and open yourself up for sex charged, you know, sex trafficking charges. We don't know Jay-Z. We don't know what he was involved in, what he could have been doing, and accusations could come out of the woodwork. But I do think that Jay-Z not settling is, you know, smart for him, because that's exactly what happened with Diddy. Diddy settled with Cassie, and then all of a sudden women came out of the woodwork. People came out of the woodwork. So we're going to see what ends up happening here. Anyway, this is Providence, man. Thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.